Hello out there, Internet! Welcome to episode 69 of Funny Books Splatter, a horror comics podcast brought to you by HorrorTalk.com. I am your host, James Ferguson. This week, I've got a do-over interview with Jacob Semahn and Jorge Corona, the writer and artist of Number One with a Bullet from Image Comics. You may recall that I spoke with them previously, but the audio files were corrupted, so the interview got scrapped. They were kind enough to speak with me again now that the series has wrapped up. Number One with a Bullet is a very timely and chilling look at our use of technology and social media. It could not be more relevant. As a bonus, colorist Jen Hickman also joins in on the chat for a bit too, reflecting on her choices for the color scheme of Number One with a Bullet. The series covers were nominated for an Eisner, and once you see them, you will understand why. They're pretty awesome. All 6 issues of Number One with a Bullet, along with the 6-page prologue story, will be collected in a trade paperback available at your local comic book shop on Wednesday, June 6th. Jacob can be found on Twitter at Saxon Jacob, that's S-A-X-O-N, Jacob, and Jorge can be found on Twitter at J-E Corona. In other news, past guest Stephan Franck has returned to Kickstarter to fund the release of the 4th and final volume of his vampire heist comic, Silver. I was very quick to back this campaign because it has been an awesome ride so far. As a special reward, backers at certain levels can receive a slipcase to store all 4 volumes, which will look pretty cool on the bookshelf. Alright, that is it for the news and updates this week. Now let's dive into episode 69 of Funny Books Splatter with my guests Jacob Semahn and Jorge Corona. So if you had to pitch Number One with a Bullet, like an elevator pitch or something for it, how would you describe the book to someone?
Number One with a Bullet, it takes place kind of in the near future. I mean, it's a future that could be tomorrow, but in this near future, the contacts can do many things. They can play video and augmented reality for gaming, but they can also record footage. And we kind of follow a social media darling, Nash Wong. She's an assistant to a variety show host, Jad Davies, and she has a big social media presence because she once in a while goes on segments of the show, and she's kind of gained a following to the point where she even has a number one fan. However, everything kind of falls apart after a sex tape is released, taken with those contact lenses without her knowledge. And the world around her kind of comes under fire and just kind of demonizes her in some kind of way and puts on these moral judgments on her. All the while she's never asked for any of this, but she now has to kind of figure out her life post exposal. And although after all that's happening, and as she's trying to build her way back to the top, she now has a number one fan who has actually come out of the woodwork and basically takes this video as a proclamation of him to be with her, and people start dying around her, and you know.
Spoilers.
I had it until the end, but yeah. So at the end, people start dying. I don't want to like give away too much, but for the most part, it's kind of a scary parallel to what's kind of going on in our world today, and some of it was meant to be that way, and some of it so sadly just kind of started happening while the book was coming out. It was very strange. Like the Me Too movement was happening, and it was very surreal and odd and frightening. Yeah. So that's Number One with a Bullet.
Yeah, Jorge, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, that was a horrible elevator ride.
Yes. I can just imagine like one single person stuck with me in an elevator. I'm just like cornering them.
They're just constantly pressing their floor button, like, oh my god, why is this happening?
Yeah. Why is this not moving?
And then I just joke and I hit all the other floor buttons before.
Have I got a story for you?
No, not really. I mean, like pretty much. Jake covered all the bases about the general story of the book. I think it is a story that became even more relevant as we were working on it, and as we kept developing the series. It was hilarious and also very tragic how everything just became more and more relevant as we kept going.
Darkly hilarious.
Yeah, hilarious because it's like, oh my god, we're trying to imagine like worst possible scenarios, and suddenly there they are in the news, like in real life, and it was like, oh god.
Yeah. So like the Me Too movement kind of blew up while this book was in it being released. So like that's got to be like a really eerie feeling to suddenly it's like, how long were you guys working on the book before it was released? Because it's not like you planned that. Like that's crazy promotion.
Yeah, no, it was. I mean, we wrote the outline, or I wrote the outline, but me and Jorge were talking about it. But we wrote it the day after the election, so like November 9th, and then we got it approved with Image in December, and kind of just went from there. So yeah, we started this script and storyline in like November of the year before. So. So 2016, I guess. Sorry, I'm a little tired. I've had a long day today. But yeah, so it was a year before, and it was one of those things where I think we all saw the writing on the wall in some kind of way, but we kind of just figured it was something that would come out over time, not so in your face a year in. And it was really disturbing how that trend took place, but also cathartic in a way that it felt like a lot of a new conversation was starting to happen in the world that wasn't taking place previously. And so I think that is something that has really been positive. I think a lot of the things that have happened recently, and when it comes to the darkness of like our lives at this point, we got to look at the positive of everyone kind of like, standing up and saying no. So that was kind of cool. And in a way, very cathartic to kind of continue the script and the story, seeing how it plays out in current time with all these other headlines hitting with like the Harvey Weinstein and just even the Bill O'Reillys of the world, just all these things kind of happening. And all the while we have Jad, who is Nash's boss, who is at the head of this sex tape. So it was very oddly cathartic to
it's got to be a kind of surreal experience too, because it's like, it's almost like, well, I hope nothing comes out that's a little too close to what's in the book, because like then that just becomes this like unreal experience about like, well, like, all right, we didn't plan that, but there it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think like even worse things actually came out to light, in comparison to the book. So like, I don't know. I think we're in a solid middle ground in terms of how horrible it could have gotten.
Yeah, I mean, real life trumps this popcorn picture.
For
sure.
Yep.
Yeah, it was actually eerie to the point where even when we had Mark Zuckerberg going in front of Congress, it was the day that the last issue came out, and we have Mark Zuckerberg talking about privacy over social media, and then we have a character deleting social media from their lives in that issue. It was just very strange, like all these things that are happening at the exact same time as this book, each issue would come out, and yeah, it's very strange and surreal, but also I feel like we've kind of tapped into something that was important, and I kind of an era and a time that kind of will encapsulate this book always at this point. So like I feel like anyone can go back and read it and kind of feel like, oh yeah, that was that moment, that was that time.
And not for nothing, but like the whole bit with the contact lenses, like that's not that far off. Like we've had things like Google Glass, which kind of went along the wayside, but like that is like the next step for something like this. So it's not crazy to think that we're going to have some weird ass technology like that could change everyone's lives. And that kind of like real world, I don't want to call it sci-fi because it's very grounded in reality here, but like that's what makes this book really scary, is that real world reality to it that, yeah, this could totally happen. Like, it's not a ghost or a goblin or a demon or something like that, which would have been cool too, but like, wouldn't have expected that twist. But, that this...
Goblins come out of your eyes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like Jad pulls the mask off and it's, Scooby-Doo or something, and it's like, oh, all right. An odd twist, but we'll go with it.
Old man McGillicuddy. Yeah. Yeah, the idea, it was weird. It was like a marrying of like three ideas at once. But yeah, that idea of the contact lenses came from Sony patenting them. I mean, I read about this in Wired magazine about Sony patenting contact lenses that can record, and I was just like, that is a terrifying, especially with like the influx of revenge porn and Celebgate and all this kind of stuff. And you're just like, oh, sure, we'll just throw contacts in the mix that we record without anyone's knowledge whatsoever. So it was a weird thing to read about and see, and just kind of ponder the idea of what our future holds in a way that like, I just don't understand where privacy is going to go at this point. Like, I don't know if we're going to have any in a couple of years. So yeah, it's interesting to see how that goes. And it's only science fiction because it's like explaining the internet to somebody in the 70s, and then you get there in the 80s, and you're just like, oh yeah, that exists. But yeah, it's just a matter of time at this point.
Yeah, have you changed your?
Oh, yeah, no, I feel like it was a. Sorry, it was like there's not enough problems with privacy already, like with the technology that we have right now, and like just the developments that keep going in that direction is just facilitating this kind of easy access or like easy shareable lifestyle, and it's horrifying to think about it.
Yeah.
Have you changed your online behavior at all as a result of working on this book?
Jake, you want to go?
Oh, sure. You can go, Jorge. That's fine.
Oh, I mean, not necessarily. Like, I feel like online, there's the way I've used it most of the time has been just mostly like work related. Like, I've never been. I don't know if I got late into the trend of social media and all that, but like I never got into the whole sharing every moment of my life online. So it didn't change that much because I felt like it didn't. I didn't need to. I wasn't exposing myself in any way that I thought I could regret later on. So it was mostly like work related and you know, a joke every here and there. So
exposing yourself is always regrettable online.
I mean, yeah, that has not paid off the way I. Yeah, so I haven't because I already came into this story with a very cautionary kind of approach to social media and online presence, I guess.
Yeah, for me, it's I mean, I deleted Facebook. I deleted Facebook pretty much, I want to say last year. So it was before even the privacy stuff came out. But it's just, A, it's a time suck. B, I feel like overall, especially in the industry that I work in, so I work in television and comics as well. And so I remember when I was younger in my 20s, I would join in on the everything's great or everything sucks type of train where you can kind of just like have battle banter with your friends about movies or whatever. And going back and looking through your history on that kind of stuff is super embarrassing. And you kind of realize like, A, the amount of time and effort and passion that goes into projects, even if they fail. And B, you also realize that everyone has an opinion, no matter whether it's yours or somebody else's. So it kind of just becomes like this weird soapbox that everyone gets on. And I just feel like at this point in my life, I have my opinions. I can talk to my friends about them. I do battle banter or whatever with my friends in person, but I don't need to join a conversation with strangers bashing something that they love or loving something that they hate. It just kind of feels pointless at this point. You know, I don't understand exactly what people get out of it besides getting angry. So, yeah, I mean, Twitter used to be really cool. It used to be like the place where you can kind of get on and talk to Dwayne The Rock Johnson, like, you know, one-on-one. He might like retweet you or talk to you. Now it just feels like, you know, everything's kind of there to kind of push an agenda of each person, a position or a viewpoint. And there is, I don't know, it's just kind of becoming a minefield, I feel like. And I feel like everyone's kind of breaking up in these different groups and tribes and, you know, everyone's kind of against each other. It's not really bringing anybody together anymore. And that's kind of worrisome. So for me, in the down and out kind of way that I'm trying to say is that I wish that I can just get off all of it. Like, I don't want to do any of it anymore. I just want to live my life. But I almost feel like now work is such that you actually need Twitter just to kind of like promote yourself. Yeah. And that's kind of stupid, I think. But here we are. We're in this life now where everyone kind of has to do these things that are kind of, I think, socially dangerous.
Yeah, and social following ends up being something that like can go on a resume.
Yep.
Like, you know, like I was reading not that long ago, Matt Hawkins for Top Cow was saying like, you know, if he's looking at like pitches or something like that, and it's I have to decide between these two people, he could take a look at their Twitter following and just see, well, is this person going to help promote the book? Like, if they have 20 followers on Twitter, like, are they going to do much? It's not saying that that's going to be like, they have to have at least X amount of followers on Twitter, but that's something that it's like, if it's a toss-up between these two guys, I'm like, all right, these things they're comparable, I could go either way, like, which one's gonna really, like, move the needle for this? And that could factor into it. And it could go the other way, too, because, like, if they go on Twitter and find out that this guy's an asshole, like, no, I don't want to work with that person.
Yeah, it's they do it in film, too. I mean, I've heard stories of people who can get directors can get movies made, indie directors get movies made based on how much of a following they have, if they have a following, or if the actor or actress in their movie has a following, they can actually get more funding to make that movie. And it's kind of strange seeing how it all kind of relies on people having that number of followers to get even further along. But like, I feel like in this day and age, we're also kind of creating a barrier between people that are just starting and people that can get things done. It's becoming it used to be a helpful tool to kind of promote and get yourself out there. Even the indie guys can like go pick up a camera and do whatever. But now it feels like there are these new barriers in place that kind of go like, oh, if you actually aren't already here, then you can't get there. And it's like this extra hurdle to get over, which is kind of odd. It's just odd because it feels like you're taking away from work doing these things. Like you're becoming a PR person on top of becoming a writer, becoming a director, becoming an artist. Like you're now having to like do PR, which is not my forte. I suck at it, dude. I fucking suck at promoting books and whatever. Like I try my best, but it comes off gross. I think it's like I'm just like retweeting like accolades, and I'm like, no one cares about this, really. Like, I don't know why I'm doing this, but I do it because I don't know anyone else that's promoting the book either. So I feel like I have to do it,
Yeah, no, and it's and back in the day before I even started working on comics, I used to work on a social media marketing company as a graphic designer, but still being behind the scenes and kind of like seeing all, every kind of like trick in the playbook that you could, promote your whatever you are promoting, your website, your rank in the Google search, and like whatever you have to do, and like all the right words, all the right timing for the posts, like how many posts do you want to have per day, per week, and it's like it's fabricated to a point that is like, I'm not saying everyone's like that. Like obviously, like a lot of people just handle their Twitter, personally, some regrettably, but yeah, but the thing is that it can be a very manufactured. It's selling something as personal, but it can be very manufactured and very artificial in a way. So I don't know. It's a weird world that is non-tangible, and it's creepy.
Yeah, look, my day job is in digital advertising, so like I recognize I'm part of the problem.
Oh no, we all are.
Oh yeah, no, I agree, but it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, I know, man. You saw that, you saw that ad on Facebook. I put that there. All right, I know where you're going.
The pop-up ad.
But like I see those things that it's like, okay, but I work in an industry that like I'm actively making the world a worse place to some extent, but it's like, all right, like how far along does this go? And like in the scheme of things, like if the internet were to like suddenly disappear, like a lot of people would die probably, but like for other things, because like hospitals run on the internet now, but like it, what do you get from that? So like, all right, if you have 1 million followers on Instagram, like you have nothing now. Like that is not a tangible thing. That's not currency. Like you can't take that to the bank or anything like that.
No, not at all. But like you said, now it's a number that, for any other reasons, like stars taking a lot of weight, but it can mean nothing.
Yeah.
It can really mean nothing, but it's like suddenly people take, like not suddenly, but like people take it into account. And I think the problem is not like, because that's the thing, like advertising and publicity and all that, like that has been around for ages. Like that is not necessarily like the dark side of this. It's just that the internet and especially social media and stuff like that, it's presented in such a personal way that you don't realize that you're getting into all this trends and all this marketing and all this like basically advertising for yourself, and you're comparing this to people who can be like, you know, very fake, or could be like non-existent, or it could be, you know, a whole team of people trying to tell you what this person really is, or something like that. So that's where it starts getting dark, because you're letting advertising, or you're letting all those I don't know, that kind of mentality into your personal life, your day-to-day life, which shouldn't be compatible, but it starts to be.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, most of the things that we experience online are in one way or another just a promotion or an advertisement for something else. I mean, just seeing when Black Panther came out or when Avengers came out, everyone, like, my feed is mostly comic book people, because those are the people that I don't really keep in touch with a lot, only at conventions and once in a while, kind of like on the phone or on Twitter or whatever, or on texting, I'm sorry. But for the most part, all of my feed is at that point now become like an advertisement for the new thing that just came out, whether it's because someone did a drawing to, you know, as like a, you know, like a fan drawing of, you know, Black Panther or whatever. It's just like constantly in my feed where it's like basically reinforcing this idea, like, go see Black Panther, go see Black Panther. And it's like, I was going to see it anyway, but now I feel like I need to see it because everyone's just blowing it up, and I don't want to like miss out or have it ruined for me. And that's another thing too, is like, fucking spoilers, dude, get the fuck out of here. Like I'm so angry about it. Like the idea that someone saw Avengers on like Thursday night or Wednesday night or whatever, and then comes on Twitter and just tells you everything that happened in it, is an asshole, and it needs to go away.
Yeah.
But
no, that should be like that should be like, oh, you're gonna get fired into the sun after this, like, because that's like, come on, like, you know, like, don't be an asshole. Like, everyone knows, like, you know, and even like the director sent a note out to like the internet to be like, hey, don't be a dick, you know?
Yeah. So we have it's just whether it's people knowing it or not, everyone's pushing an agenda, and it's unknowing, and it's almost like this weird kind of like puppet mastery where it's kind of taking over people's lives. And I feel like not in like a dark way sometimes, because I mean, everyone needs to be a fan of something, but at the same time, it does feel very manufactured. It does feel very like, look at what we can do, and how about you join in on the fun? And then like all of a sudden you get your friend to join in on the fun. It becomes like Amway at this point. The internet is the new Amway. Yeah, so it's interesting for sure.
Yeah, it's all around unsettling stuff, which makes it for interesting storytelling, because like how this, like tying it back to the book here, like, you know,
I was ready to just go and drink and be depressed for the rest of the night.
I was gonna get on my lawn and yell at kids, but all right.
Get off the Snapchats! You don't know what it's doing to you. It's rotting your brain. But like you could see that kind of stuff, like I think in the reactions that you had I think it's almost in if it's not in every issue, it's in almost every issue, where like something new happens and then you see this kind of like hashtag mafia that goes out here, that's like these reactions, whether it was like the initial video and seeing the differences between like when something happens with Nash versus something happening with Jad, because like the reaction to a woman online is very different than that of a man online, and that was like really gets under your skin, like puts it in a way of like, yeah, this happens, and it's like, you know, you may not always notice it. Like I recognize that I'm, you know, like I'm a white guy, so I don't see that same level of sexism or racism that definitely still permeates the internet in a big way, but like that exists, and I think like that you kind of like put it right on Front Street there to be like, yeah, this is what it's like out there, and these things happen, and it's like you could have probably taken all those comments from real life Twitter users or YouTube comments or stuff like that, and I would not have been surprised at all.
For sure. I mean, if we want to talk about it, like Stormy Daniels right now is like getting either praised or like demonized. It's very funny because, you know, a lot of things have been coming out, and obviously Giuliani talked about, you know, about how Trump did pay her off and this did happen and whatever. And still people are like, she's a tramp, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, wait, what? She just brought to light the things that happened and the fact that she was paid off in hush money or whatever. And it's just very interesting to see how people react to her and then let Trump go. And it's very interesting to see how that plays out in our culture today, especially after what we do know about, Bill O'Reilly and Harvey Weinstein. Like we know this exists and it's very demonized, but it seems like when it comes to attacking this one particular person, Trump, it feels very like it feels very bulletproof. Like it feels like they will never change their mind. And it is almost true. Like he says that he could have shot someone on Fifth Avenue and he wouldn't have lost a follower. And basically that's the same. It is that mentality. It's that mentality of, I will follow this wherever it goes because he can do no wrong. And everyone else that comes before is obviously, an asshole or a liar or whatever. And so it's very interesting to see that kind of mob mentality of people who like someone but don't really know them. And you see them online, you see them for like how they present themselves, but you don't know who that person really is. And you don't know who the person who is claiming harassment or, abuse or anything like that. You don't know them either. But the fact that you take one side over the other because you like that other person more is legitimately worrisome. Especially when it's been proven that it was, handled by the man. So yeah, it's scary because I didn't have to go very far on a limb to imagine these scenarios. And I worked with Erin Levy, who's a writer on Mad Men, and she's doing Counterpart right now. And she was the editor on the book, and I would talk to her about the experiences. I talked to Jen Hickman, who's the colorist on the book, did a great job. And just kind of like ran by these experiences and wanted to know if any of this rung true. I didn't want to like overstep. And they both didn't bat an eyelash. They're like, oh yeah, this happens all the time. Like this is not even far-fetched. And it kind of sad. It's a sad commentary.
Yeah, this is not a fun book.
Well, it's when you watch like a train wreck.
Yeah.
It's that kind of fun.
Yeah, it's that kind of fun.
Yeah, well, it's something like it does put like I don't want to like put off. It's not this isn't like it's fun for all ages. Like share it with your kids. Like it's not that kind of book, but it's something that like it's very timely. One, obviously because that's what we've been talking about, but also just like like I said before, it pulls from that real lifeness of it. That like it might force you to. Like I don't know if you're gonna change the world with this comic, but like if someone reads this and they if they take the side of Jad or the people that do it, it's like you're kind of forced to recognize that like this is the problem. Like and even like there's one point in the book, I want to say it's like issue like 4, where Jad does something and like the public reacts in this like unique way where it's almost like what you were saying with Trump and then how people are reacting, like his supporters like, yeah, he's right, yeah, get him, grab him by the pussy, do that. It's like but no, like you have to understand like you're wrong, like that is the wrong side of it. And like there was a moment where like you kind of sympathize with him and I felt dirty. Like I felt like this is upsetting that like I almost sympathize with him, but you could see how the public opinion can be swayed in such a way that it's like, oh, this is fucked up. This is really messed up.
Yeah, I remember that issue, and when I got the script, like Jake and I even talked about it for a while, just because it was like, dude, we're almost making him sound like a good guy, and that's creeping me the hell out. But it is like that. It's just like it's the fake voice that you put out, like that you try to pretend yourself with, and that's how you get people, and that's how people get behind you. And like when you really are just doing shitty things and like just basically getting away with it. But yeah, it was an issue that I remember, like that specific issue. The script was like something that we talked about because of Jad and the way he was coming across in the story. And it was like he was an asshole, and he was like he wasn't wrong, and he didn't handle any of the things the right way. But you still like depending on the way you phrase it, or depending on the way he presented it himself, he could almost be like the victim, and when he wasn't. And so that same feeling, I had the same feeling when I read the script for the first time.
Yeah, it's definitely it was definitely a fine line to walk on that issue. We even had like one reviewer who was mad at us for not justifying him, like vindicating him in some kind of way, and I was like, "Fuck off! Are you serious?" Like, I was like,
Yeah.
dude, this guy recorded a woman having sex with her at a Christmas party. He got her drunk, and basically kept the recording to himself, and it got outed. But like that guy's a monster. Like no one does that. No one does that, and you know, so it's one of those things where like I don't want to paint. I mean, not that Jad is the every like predator man, but he is a guy that did something very dark and stupid and
Wrong.
and you know, and yeah, definitely wrong. But like he's not like an out and out monster. Like he's not out there like trying to like prey on everyone that he sees. So like I definitely didn't want to make him this arch villain. I wanted to make him someone that you know as a person, because that's what the worry is. The worry is that everyone can do this. Anyone with the ability to have this power, you can just do these things. And so I wanted to definitely have that moment where the audience kind of goes, oh yeah, this guy, he's a guy, and that's the problem, is that he's a guy that's been given this thing, this power to wield over other people, and he uses his affluent, you know, nature and his platform to kind of basically sell himself as the martyr. And so that's worrisome, because that's kind of what we see now. Like we don't, like, I don't know, like take Louis C.K. for example. That was like the hardest thing for me, because I remember the day I heard it, I was like, fucking seriously? Like I was so upset, because he was like legitimately my favorite modern comedian. Like I watched all his specials. I went to a couple of his stand-up shows, and hearing him, you know, hearing about all this and how he gave like this really half-hearted apology. It was well written, but it wasn't really an apology. It was hard for me, but at the same time, you know, having a guy like that and twisting it in a way that kind of like absolves himself from kind of blame is not far-fetched. And so that's kind of where we went with Jad. But yeah, when me and Jorge, I remember we walked around, I think it was Rose City. We were walking around the convention because we like legitimately were worried about some of the things in the book, especially presenting it as two male creators. And I think that ultimately worried us, because we were just like, we definitely don't want to present ourselves as these people that are like have gone through all this before, or like it's our viewpoint or it's our experience, because it's not. It's just experiences that we've had with tons of our friends and, you know, loved ones, and that's just something that has weighed on us a little bit harder than I guess some other people. So we really wanted to make this story. So yeah, we definitely took care. We definitely walked a fine line. We ran everything by Aaron, our editor, and Jen, and just tried to make the truest sense of a story that we possibly could. And I think the fact that all these things actually happen in real life at the same time were just even more worrisome, because it was like, okay, we can't paint Jad too much in this light, but at the same time, we don't want to make him like, you know, Jafar or something from Aladdin. You know, we don't make him this like master, you know, criminal. So yeah, that's kind of, that was definitely something that we thought about and really contemplated as we approached it.
Given the timely nature of all this, what was the reaction like for the book? Or was it met with that same kind of like positivity that you got from your editor and stuff? Like, yes, this, or not positivity, but like, you know, reassurance that like, yes, you're on the right track here. You're not speaking, you know, ill of any of this stuff. Like you're doing this justice. I
mean, I feel like all of the things that I've read and from people that we've talked to have all been very positive. There was one person that didn't even read the book, but like heard about it and was like upset because it was written by me. So that's fine. That's fair, I guess.
Yeah, you are really offensive. I can understand.
I think it was because it was written by a male, and the odd thing about that was that I was called out, or I was called out for. Because the character Nash is bisexual, and so the idea that a straight male wrote it, never mind the fact that like this person doesn't know who I am, so I could totally be bisexual. But the idea that came into play, that was the only negative thing that I actually read, and it kind of irked me a little bit because I don't know, we definitely did take care of it, and took care with it. I mean, sorry. So yeah, but other than that one person, I can't think of one other instance where we had a negative kind of viewpoint of it. So I don't know, maybe Jorge, do you have anything?
No, I think it was weird, but actually like 2 days ago, my mom of all people came by and told me like, have you seen this review on YouTube? And it was like a very, very crappy review of the whole book.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah.
Cool.
But then
I can't wait to feel bad about myself.
Oh no, don't worry. Yeah, no, it's like it's
just make sure to share it with them on
yeah,
Twitter.
I know they destroyed everything, but it was like for the first issue, and it was like I don't know, it didn't hit any point that I was like, okay, that's a legitimate opinion about the subject. It was just like I don't like it, and why did they curse at the beginning, and why do they? I don't know. It was a weird thing. I think they called us at some point like the social word. What is it? Social justice warrior. Jesus Christ! This is what happens when English is not your first language. Well, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, basically like a dream. Yeah. And I was like, oh, that's nice. I can tell what kind of person you are. So, yeah. But I mean, yeah. Yeah, it is fair. I mean, we knew that this book could, either you were going to like it or you were going to be very, because it is a sensitive topic all around, and like for not only the characters but like the story and all of that. So we knew that it was either going to be one way or another. But I think for the majority, actually, it was well received, and people seemed to understand that what we were trying to do with the book, and that made me really happy. And the few times that I actually got to basically promote the book on conventions and stuff, like sometimes people came by for the first issue and then came back the other day for like the next day for the rest of them, because they were interested about the story and about the kind of like the relevance of it.
Yeah, I really at San Diego, or no, it was Emerald City. Sorry, I remember this one parent came over and was just like, she thanked us because it was something that was very important that she read with her daughter, which I actually was very kind of moved by a little bit, because her daughter I think was 15, and it was something that was important to share with her, and it's something that her daughter was just getting into comics as well, and so it was just kind of interesting to see that where like a mother and daughter can share this one book, because it kind of does take a lot of the technology and things that are happening in today's life and kind of applying it to kind of like a
cautionary tale.
There you go. Yeah, thank you. My brain is so dead right now. I've been like, I got like 4 hours of sleep this past night. So it was moving to see that, and also just I think also because most of the time I always feel like I hear about like fathers like sharing comics with their sons, and I'm like, fuck that, dude. Like, I'm so happy that a mom can share this comic with her daughter and kind of just both get something out of it, and so that was pretty cool. That was kind of a highlight of Emerald City for me. She didn't buy the comics because she had them all, but she just wanted to stop by and say thanks. Yeah. And I was like, that was cool. So yeah, I mean, overall, I think the comic in general has been well received. And Jorge, congratulations for his best cover artist or nomination, I guess, for the Eisners. So that's good. That's well received. Those
all
covers.
Because of you, baby. All because of you.
It's true. If you want to think about all the awards we got, I think they were both on books that I did.
Debatable, but okay.
So really, they're really his awards too. I think that's what he's saying.
I basically just tell him I made him. I made you, and I just
this is becoming very possessive real fast.
I want to make sure I touch upon this because I have both of you here. I know when we had talked briefly the last time before I screwed up and lost the podcast. you had talked that you were kind of doing this project before you could venture on and possibly do a sequel to Goners.
Yeah.
Is there any news, or is there anything you could talk about, I guess? Is that still something that is a possibility now that Number One with a Bullet is wrapped up?
So
Yeah,
I had,
yeah,
go ahead.
Okay. No, you go.
Oh, I had an interesting conversation today about this. But yes, I do want to talk to Jorge offline about this. But yeah, it's it's something that we've already like established what we're gonna do on it. It's just kind of a matter of when. And right now, Jorge his plate is a little full. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely it's on the table, and maybe I don't know. Yeah, I don't want to like talk about it on the air too much because I feel like there's a lot of
I want to make sure. Yeah, if there's something that you can't like, I get that, things about it, like, but the fact that there is still something that could come down the line, because like that was still like that was such a good book, and it was something that like kind of came out of nowhere for me, and I was like, holy shit, this is awesome, and I hope to see that world explored further.
Yeah,
but yeah, like I'm glad to hear that at least it's it's not gone. So
I thought of that all by myself.
So
no, yeah. I think last time we talked, the idea that we kind of were talking about was almost like a requel, which is kind of like a reboot sequel, where it'll make sense when it comes out. But the idea is kind of just like to get new readers as well, because this book, the gap in between the stories would be so large that it would kind of you would want to get a new audience at this point. So. Yeah, so I think that there's a lot of possibilities there. It's just kind of a matter of logistics at this point.
Yeah, that's great. I'm happy to hear that as well, because that, like I said, it's such a great book. I've recommended that to a few folks, and I think what I have so this is actually technically the second Horror Talk podcast. We had this other one that I couldn't quite get off the ground, but we had me and my editor Steve were. Basically, it was a comic book movie discussion show. He would give me a movie to watch, I would give him a comic to read, then we'd talk about it. So Goners was one of the first ones that we did. I could probably dig up the audio I sent to you guys, because it was a matter of like, we should talk about this, and like, so I have it somewhere that it's like we did like 3 or 4 episodes, and then we just couldn't get on a regular calendar to do that. So if I ever make like a Patreon or something for this show, that will be like the monthly show I'll try to put on there as like a bonus.
Nice.
Or something.
Yeah, but, that's a good idea, actually.
Yeah,
that's a really actually good idea.
Yeah, I've been thinking about
it was
like a lot of my friends have kind of approached me about doing like a weekly podcast or whatever, and I was like, well, tell me something that isn't already on the air. Like, just give me something. But that's actually kind of a unique idea. I like that idea a lot.
Yeah, it was fun. It was just, like I said, timing was just, it sucks. Like, we were both too busy to like ever get on the same calendar, so like it would like 2 months would go by before we were able to do it again. So like we never actually released anything. I released the introductory episode as like a bonus on this feed once, like 6 months or so ago.
Yeah. Cool.
So I was like, yeah, like here's the thing, like let me know if you like this, and I can do more of this, or I'll try to pressure. I'll use that as pressure for my editor to be like, look, the people want it.
I'm just picturing like an old timey like 1940s editor who's just like, stop the presses.
Yeah, no, my editor is 100% Perry White. Like that's
his mouth, he pulls it out. He's only chewing on it. He's not even smoking. It's weird.
Yeah. No, what's funny, I tease him a lot because I think he looks like Robert Kirkman. So every so often I was like, hey man, you had this huge line at New York Comic Con. Like, look at all these people that wanted to see you. Like, why didn't you say hello to me?
It's funny. It's like Sean Kirkham, who everyone's like, oh, are you Robert's brother? And he's like, I don't understand when people ask me that. I'm like, you guys look similar, and you guys have similar last names, and you guys work at the same company. It's pretty funny. He gets like super like, you just get, everyone always asks him that or just assumes that of him, and he's just like always like, no, I'm not related to Robert. It's really interesting.
See, apparently James Ferguson is like a really common name, so like all the time I would get like, oh, are you related to? No, like I don't even have to get far, like you don't have to tell me the person's name, and I can tell you I'm not related to that person. Like it's a common enough name. Sorry, I don't know Jeff or Chad or whoever the hell it is your cousin is. No, just cut it off at the.
So you're not related to Fergie?
No, not even a little bit. Although I am annoyed because like I feel like I had that nickname first. Like I legit have like a sweatshirt with that on it. Like, you know, I had owned that first, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, here's like, oh yeah, like Fergie, and I was like, who the hell are you talking? Like, it was completely off my radar, like who they were. So I was like, I don't know who you're talking about. Who's this woman? And they're like, oh, like, you know, I'm like, again, don't know. Like, you need to give me more context. And I'm like, oh, damn it, like, she stole my name.
People catcall you, say London Bridge. Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, all the time. Yeah. Also because, you know, I'm pretty gorgeous. I get that a lot. You know, yeah. I understand. I get a lot of those catcalls.
That's fair.
No, I probably shouldn't say things like that when we just spent like, you know, half an hour talking about like, you know, the Me Too movement and social media stuff like that. So send your letters to at James Ferguson on Twitter or
focus your hate.
But yeah, so it looks like though the trade collection for the first 6 issues as well as that prologue, right? Like the 6-page prologue.
Yeah.
That's all getting collected?
Yeah.
June 6th is what I saw. Is that right?
Yes, it's June 6th at all comic stores, and I believe it comes out a little later to bookstores. I think it's like the next week. I think it's June 12th or something.
Yeah,
like that.
There's usually like a week-long hiatus. Comic shops get that like exclusive for the first week or so. So yeah, but it'll be on that and Comixology as well for digital
yeah, I think
readers
it's like 14 on Comixology and $7.99. But it's a thick book. It's like 184 pages. It's got all the essays in the back. It's got the prologue and the 6 issues. So yeah, it's a beautiful looking book. I just proofed it the other day, I want to say, and man, I can't wait for it to have it in my hands.
Yeah, I want to see that Jen Hickman masterpiece.
Yeah, I feel like every time we do a book, it's like we get very lucky with our team. It's like always a pretty solid team. We got Jen Hickman doing colors and Steve Wan's doing lettering design, and yeah, everybody just kind of brought their A game, which is great. It's a really pretty and just a very like vibrant book. Like the colors just kind of pop off the page, which is great.
The colors are insane in this. Like, maybe this is a question more for Jen, but like, how did you, I guess, come to that kind of palette? Because it is very like, I don't even know how to describe the palette that's used for this book, because like it in way, like color is used in like a really smart way, and like it describes tone. It has so much emotion packed into it, and like, but they're also unique colors. There's a lot of like greens and pinks and stuff like that.
Actually, we can
really make it stand out.
Actually, we can make this happen real quick. Give me just a second, Jen.
Special guest
about colors in the podcast. Yeah, there you go. Now you have a Jen exclusive now.
Awesome.
All right.
Hi.
Hi. Hello.
Hello, Jen.
Well, yeah, this.
We should have had her on instead of Jorge.
This.
Oh, what's up, Jake? I didn't know you were here too. Jorge told me nothing.
Yeah, there's still time. We can edit around him.
Welcome to the
fine.
AOL chat room.
Oh.
Yeah.
We want to talk about your colors, Jen.
Okay.
Go ahead, James.
Yeah. Well, first, hello. I'm James. I write for Horror Talk and was a big fan of your colors on #1 with a Bullet. So we were just talking with Jake and Jorge about the book and talking about the colors. Like the palette is very interesting that was used here. Like it's something that kind of really stands out and looks just like I was saying I don't even know how to describe it, of how like you would come to like these kind of colors, but like it stands out and really conveys the emotion and the tone of the book really well. So like how did you decide upon that particular color scheme?
Yeah, I mean, I have gotten a lot of feedback that the colors were weird but good. And I think a lot of it was me being very sick of using local or descriptive colors for a scene and wanting to see sort of how far I could push the emotional read of a color. So like really a lot of it was just me trying to see if I could make like I don't know, like the color green mean happiness or something weird like that, and just sort of playing with it till it worked.
Cool. Yeah, I think it worked really well, because I think, you know, that idea there was, green means happiness, but that goes with it, like because there's a lot of panels that seem like they alternate between the colors and just looks really cool, because it's like, okay, you're bouncing between characters or, you know, different scenes or different viewpoints or something like that, and it's almost like a flashing light that's kind of like blinking back and forth at you. To convey.
Well,
everything.
and another thing that I really wanted to keep an eye towards was like presenting reality as maybe not quite real, because that's sort of a running theme in the book. And so I figured that if I used these outrageous palettes, it would be easier for the reader to buy into that as a theme.
Yeah, it feels, and the thing that I've talked about a couple times is like it feels very much like Suspiria. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it feels very like. It's very vibrant and colorful, and like dangerous scenes always have red in it, and it's just like it's very it's a colorful film, and I feel like the style is kind of what makes that film work. And so in essence, it almost feels like an emotional color palette, and so that's kind of like how I've always described it. Is I just feel like it's like an emotional color palette that you mastered so well.
That's definitely like what I was focusing on, rather than, well, it's day, so the sky needs to be blue, like that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's so boring.
Totally.
No, I was talking. We were talking about earlier too how I just finalized the pages before they went to the printers, and we were looking through I was looking through all the pages to just kind of prove them all, and just seeing them from page to page, like kind of just in a row. Oh man, it's just such a good looking book. I'm very excited
to see that trade.
Yeah, me too. I am really looking forward to just holding it. It's going to be a very solid trade. It's got some spot gloss on the front, and it's gonna be nice. But yes,
yeah, that's all. Yeah, I mean, and the fact that you're including all the essays and stuff too is a nice added bonus that kind of adds additional weight to the book too. Because that's sometimes that's stuff that is just like only for single issues, but having it in there too, it's like, and still at a pretty decent price is not bad at all.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at a Marvel book of like a comparable size, it's like $30. So I don't know. Yeah. And this is the whole story. So, you get your 6 issues, you get the whole story, one and done. So, and the essays in the back are fantastic. They're done by Sarah Charles and Casey Gilly, and they cover basically, women in entertainment, in certain fields of entertainment, I guess, not necessarily like film or anything like that, but just kind of like on the cyber side, and in different positions as well. And they talk about their experiences with harassment, or maybe sometimes we also had one where she talked about how she does seminars about harassment in the workplace for digital tech companies. And so we cover different avenues of fields that are kind of like, whether it's like gaming or comics, or just kind of Silicon Valley-esque type places. And we start a conversation with them, and we talk about their individualized experiences and kind of focus the lens through that. And so these essays are really, really well done, and they're kind of these like Q&As, or just talk about harassment in general, just from meeting someone on World of Warcraft. And so the whole book kind of feels like a very complete statement that we made, and we planted a flag, and I'm very proud of it.
I'm proud of it too. And can I hand the phone back to Jorge, or was there any?
Sure,
you don't have to.
Thank you for joining us. This is like a really that was an added bonus
okay,
there.
Cool. Thanks for chatting. All right, handing it back.
Thank you.
Hey.
Hello.
There
again.
You go.
So I think the only other thing I want to the only other thing I want to ask is just like, I guess, how after making Number One with a Bullet and dealing with all these technological and social media kind of terrors, is there something that you kind of fear happening in the near future when it comes to either technology or social media like this, or has it already happened with what we've been seeing in the news over the past 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, honest to God, like I think every is that numbness by this point. I think like the worst has happened, and then suddenly, oh no, we were just getting started. So I don't know. I appreciate it, like especially like the connectivity that social media and all this provides to people who, in a world where everyone just keeps moving around and keeps looking for better places and stuff like that, and that still allows you to kind of like be in contact and be aware and updated on situations all around the world. Like that is a powerful weapon, and that's a powerful tool to have. But it opens your world and your life to a lot of like different negative situations, and also like negative I don't want to say energies because that sounds hippie as hell, but but it is kind of, yeah, it does open up it's a door that has been open, and it's both for good things and bad things. And I feel like the more it progresses, the more we're gonna have things to look forward to and look out for. So
I think ultimately, my biggest fear, and we're just seeing the tip of it right now, is that we're not gonna know what the truth is anymore. I think ultimately it's going to come down to trusting in the people that we find to be on our side, or to be the guy that's like, in our tribe or whatever. And so I think we're getting to dangerously close to a place where, and this doesn't happen in other countries, like, or not other countries, but like it doesn't happen in like Germany or Europe or anything like that, because they have certain laws in place to like prevent a Fox News or, so it's very interesting to see how at this point I don't know if facts are going to matter after a while, and the things that we get presented are going to be drowned out by other things like Kanye going crazy or whatever. It's just become I think it's becoming a 24-hour news cycle that everyone tries to just top so that they can kind of bury the thing that was like the crazy news of that day. But in the future, I don't know if we're the way that we're going. I don't know if we're going to have much more of that. Like, I feel like it's just going to be constantly like a stream of propaganda like sent to us, and we won't even know the difference after a while, because there will be a generation that was born before any of this stuff started happening, so it'll just seem normal to them. And so that's kind of what worries me more than anything else, is that we will not know what the truth is anymore. And at that point, when you kind of give up what truth is, you kind of become a slave to whatever it is, the powers that be. So not to be super dark, but that's kind of scary. That's terrifying to me.
Yeah, well, look, that's an entire dystopian world, and we're kind of stepping towards that right now, which is really creepy. So
do you remember 2 years ago? Do you remember 2 years ago? I just want to like throw that out there. Like 2 years ago, this was not a thing.
Yeah, I know. Like, it's like we were all just happy to check in on Foursquare or whatever, and be like, yeah, man, this is great. I went to the pizza place, and this is what happened. And now it's like, because you went to that pizza place 2 years ago, you'll probably want these larger pants because you've eaten so much fucking pizza over the past 2 years. And I'm like, oh, you're right. Oh my god. And then that's big data, and yeah. I don't know. I don't even know where to go from this. It's a crazy, depressing way to leave the show. Yeah, but
you asked the question, I gave you an answer.
Yeah, I know, man. Was it like? And what's the feel good, happy thing? We're either that, or we're gonna all end up like those like boneless people at the end of WALL-E, where we're just trucking along in little chairs with like food just getting shoved into our mouths.
Pretty much.
That'll be
I'm looking forward to that.
Reality. The real part of us will be dead, probably in like a bed somewhere, and we'll just be living in like a mind world.
It's like the Matrix. So see, it's all just a pop culture reference. That's the way I make do with everything.
I can always go darker. Every time he throws something at me, I'll just go a little bit darker.
That's how I call my friendship with Jake too. It can always go darker.
Yeah, it can get worse. It's basically my nickname.
Well, that's what has made you guys make some pretty great horror comics there, because like, all right, it's almost like you're one-upping each other then, like, oh yeah, you think that was dark? Just look at this.
Eventually someone will like not publish us. Yeah.
Well, until then, number one with a bullet is out in comic shops and digitally on June 6th. Otherwise, I know we talked about you kind of distancing yourself from stuff like Twitter, but do you want to plug any social handles here?
For me, it's only Twitter at this point. Like I have Instagram, but it's like private. So at Saxon Jacob, so it's SAXONJACOB. It's on Twitter.
Yeah, my Twitter is at JE Corona, and just like the beer, and that's probably where you can find me and reach me.
All right. That's it then, folks, for this episode of Funny Book Splatter. I have been James Ferguson, and my guests, Jacob Semahn and Jorge Corona. You've been listening to Funny Book Splatter, a horror comics podcast brought to you by HorrorTalk.com. We've been bringing you the best in horror since 2002. In addition to comics, we cover movies, TV shows, books, and video games. We've got news, reviews, guest features, interviews, unboxing videos, and much more. Be sure to sign up to Steve's Deals newsletter to increase your horror collection without breaking the bank. Check us out at HorrorTalk.com and at HorrorTalk on Twitter.